buy inherently flame retardant curtains, they're made out of plastic, basically. IFR made materials maintaining their properties throughout their lifespan. I know of theaters that have curtains that are 30 years old now, that are IFR, made out of IFR materials, and they look great. It's really amazing how well this stuff lasts. So, I encourage you, if you're buying curtains for a theater, automatically just go to the IFR curtain section and buy that material. Don't even fool around with cotton stuff unless you have a lot of money and you don't care about the future. Theater fabrics. Muslin. Look, I got muslin. I have a couple different versions of it. I'm not sure what they are. They're really what was in the cabinet this morning. This is what we call medium weight muslin, and it's the standard cotton fabric that we use when we use it. This is just a heavier version of the same thing. Same kind of fabric, it's a little heavier.
But we're not to canvas yet, right?
No. I haven't seen it with canvas. It depends on who you ask. Some people might call this very light canvas, but and if you start until you get really into it, where we go from fabric to canvas, it's just heavy. Canvas is just heavier fabric, and so it's just a gradation, a spectrum, if you will, of very lightweight to very heavy stuff. Cotton, a variety of weights. This is a heavier weight. What do we mean when we say weight of fabric?
Let's pass those around or walk them around. Touch them, my friends, and then wash your hands before you eat or drink something.
When we talk about weight, what are we talking about? Go. No. But
it translates to that, though, Mary.
To that, really. Go. No, but
it translates to that.
The weight of it does affect how it flows and how it drapes, how it hangs. Go.
Is it based on thread count?
No, but it's related. Because it translates. The higher the thread count, well,
depends on the fabric. That's not quite as like connected.
Yeah,
it's tricky.
Less, but it's part of it. Anyone else? When they manufacture fabric, they cut out a yard of it. Does anybody know what a yard of fabric is?
Nope.
Everybody understand it? When we buy and sell fabric by the yard. Which is kind of unique and weird and interesting because fabric comes in all different widths. They make fabric that's 42 inches wide. They make fabric that's 45 inches wide. They make fabric that's 54 inches wide. They make fabric that's 60 inches wide. They make fabric that's 120 inches wide. They make fabric that's 30 feet wide. So when I buy a yard of fabric, I'm buying 3 feet. Everybody agrees that a yard is 3 feet, right? I'm buying 36 inches, 3 feet, 1 yard of fabric for however wide it happens to be. If I buy 1 yard of 45 inch fabric, 45 inches, 45, 54, and 60 are pretty common widths of fabric. 72 and 120 are also not uncommon, but there's a lot of variation in it. If I walk in the store and I buy a 45, and the fabric's 45 inches wide, and I buy 1 yard of it, I'm buying a piece of fabric that is 36 inches long and 45 inches wide. If I buy 1 yard of 60 inch fabric, I get a piece of fabric that is 36 inches long and 60 inches wide. So it's sold by the running yard. Does that make sense? Okay. When we talking about weights of fabric, we're talking about 1 square yard of fabric. 3 feet long, 3 feet wide, 36 inches wide, 36 inches long. And then we weigh it. We put it on a scale and we weigh it. And so a yard of this fabric will be 14 ounces. How many of you bought a sweatshirt that has bought a 14-ounce sweatshirt or an 18-ounce sweatshirt whenever you're buying a sweatshirt? Oh, I get a lot of blank stares. Maybe they don't sell them that way anymore. Back when I was a kid, you'd go to the store, You carve your receipt on a stone tablet. No, I'm kidding.
I was gonna say, this caveman.
Maybe I haven't bought clothes in a long time recently enough.
They do when you're ordering in bulk. If you ever if you're placing the t-shirt order for your organization, one of the things you can look at is the ounces of the material to tell you like what it's going to feel like, what its thickness is, right? You probably are looking at the pictures to see how it drapes instead, because that's what because you all are used to internet shopping in a way that didn't exist for Curtis.
What I was trying to do was I was trying to say, oh look, here's an everyday example of you having dealt with the weight of fabric.
But your t-shirts are a great example. Like you absolutely should go into your t-shirt drawer and feel the difference between, I don't know, the cheap freebie t-shirt that you got versus the one that you really love to wear. There is probably a difference in the weight of those materials. Does that make sense, y'all?
They passed out outside the bar versus the very expensive one that you bought at the university bookstore. Those two shirts are going to be.
They might feel different.
They might feel different. But anyway, it's weight. So that's what ounce weight it is. And how they arrive at that is this: the difference between these two pieces of fabric is this one has a smaller thread in it. This has a heavier thread in it. They probably have a very similar thread count. So I want to count thread. No, I'm kidding.
But because that's a thicker thread, the weave is tighter, which means when it goes to drape, it's not gonna fold and flex as easily.
Yeah. So thread or weight. We kind of got sidetracked on variety. This is natural muslin. This is the way it comes out of the mill. They bring in a bale of cotton at one end of the factory. It goes through all the process. It gets woven into a thing. This is the color that comes out. They haven't done anything to it. They also sell cotton or muslin in bleach, and that is white. It will be white, like for sure. And you can also buy it where it's been treated for flame retardant. Do we ever buy flame retardant muslin? No. Why do we not buy flame retardant muslin?
It's like higher expenses, I'm guessing.
It's more expensive, and there's another reason that you probably won't get. What happens when I get a flame retardant? I take flame retardant material and I get it wet. What happens to this flame retardancy? It goes way down. It goes almost bye-bye, completely bye-bye, because you've washed all the particulate out of it. Okay. The other thing is that if we paint it, because oftentimes we're making scenery, we're painting this stuff. If we paint it, the paint has a lot of water in it, so that's going to wash out the flame retardancy. The flame retardancy may affect how the paint goes on, what it looks like. So we don't want that. We don't want that stuff in there when we're trying to paint it. And here's another secret. What do we know about the flame retardancy of latex paint? If you look around you, the walls are all painted with latex paint. The majority of the paint that you see on surfaces around you is latex paint. What's one of the great properties of latex paint? It adds flame retardancy. If you take a piece of raw wood and you take a torch and you put a fire against it, it's going to catch on fire in 15 seconds. I'm making up numbers because I don't know right off the top of my head. If I put that it's going to start burning the wood in 15 seconds. If I just simply take that piece of raw wood and I paint it with a layer of latex paint and I put the fire on it, it's going to take 45 seconds for it to catch on fire. It has to burn that latex off of there before it can actually set the fire. So the simple act of just painting a coat of paint on things is adding a layer of flame protection to it. So that's one of the reasons why we don't buy IFR fabric, is because we're going to paint. So we're just going to waste all that money. Dude is dude. It's a terrible example of dudeing. If you'll notice, often called commando cloth. It's made out of cotton. It comes in a variety of weights. It comes in a variety of colors. It is brushed. It has nap. It does not have pile. Talk about nap and pile in a minute. It comes in NFR versus flame, non-flame guard and flame guard, and there are other alternatives to it. This Commando cloth, there are a lot of good IFR options out there, but it's just cotton. If you look at it very carefully, you can see that it has a nap to it. So the way this works is that when they weave it, this is the back side of it, it looks like this on both sides. And then they run it through a process where they brush it. And basically it just makes this side fuzzy. Okay? And why do we make it fuzzy? Why do we brush it? No. To make it look, to give it more depth. To make it absorb light better. The lights, here the light's kind of reflecting off of the weave of the fabric. Here you don't see the weave of the fabric and you see less reflection.
Do you see that? Can you hold it in exactly the same way so they can see the?
Take a good look at it.
Because the sides of the fabric actually
You
look
see
very
where I'm brushing
different.
it, that it's changing. You can see where I'm brushing. This is kind of an old tired piece of fabric. If it was new, it would react slightly different.
But turn it
So
over.
there's that, okay? And then
It's
I'm
very
gonna turn it
clear.
over. You notice it looks a lot flatter. I don't know if you can see it, me leaving streaks in it or not. But whenever I do that, you can actually affect it. One of my favorite stories about Duke Team was I was working at Cincinnati Playhouse Park. We had built a show that had this portal. It was in the Shelter House Theater. There was this portal, had a flat over here, had two big slats that went across the top, had a flat that went down the side. And so we were building, kind of framed the stage, so to speak. And it was one of the first pieces of scenery the guys built. So they built the scenery, they covered it with Duvakine, it was covered with black Duvakine. And they just built flat, wrapped it with Duvakine, carried it out and set it in the loading dock. It sat there for 2 weeks. What happens when you leave anything sitting around the scene shop for 2 weeks? It gets covered in dust, right? So, came to loading day, the guys back the truck up, they go to get the flats for the truck, and they go, oh, covered in dust. So Joe goes over and gets the air hose, right? Now, back up for half a second, because Joe Hoffman should have been a comedian. He was the funny guy, right? So he was always doing stuff. He was hilarious to be around. So Joe comes over, and they had nicknamed this this show Project Golden Turd, because they were polishing a turd into gold. That's what they kept. That was just the running mantra around the shop. So Joe comes over with the air hose, and he goes in big cursive letters, "Golden Turd," in the sawdust on the thing. And everybody went, "Hi, Joe, he's a funny guy." Huh? And they blow all the sawdust off the rest of it, and they put it in the truck, and they take it down to the theater and they load it in. Okay? Fast forward to tech rehearsals. Get it all loaded in and everything. Everybody gets sitting around where you're ready to start tech. Turn the lights off, bring the lights up. Golden. You can totally see where he had blown into the fabric golden turd. You couldn't see it just looking at it, but when the light was hitting it at just the right angle, you could totally see it. So I picked up the phone, I called the shop, I said, "Hey guys, bring the truck." And they came and they took the flat down, they carried it back to the shop, they took the Duvakine off, they put new Duvakine on, they came back, they loaded it in and everything was fine. So, you can affect the nap by blowing pressurized air against it. You can actually permanently affect, not a lot, but you can affect it some.